If you're listening to this, it's because something inside you is restless. You feel it. Deep down, you know that the way you've been living, playing small, doubting yourself, surviving instead of thriving, is not all that life has to offer you. And you're right. Welcome to I Am Prosperous, the channel that's not here to entertain your comfort zone, but to awaken the millionaire within you. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button, because what you're about to hear, no one ever told you this. It's raw, it's honest, and it's the kind of truth that can recode your mind, rebuild your future, and resurrect your power. Imagine this. A self-made millionaire sits alone, pen in hand, and writes a letter to the version of themselves who was once broke, lost, and stuck in the illusion of limits. What would they say? What truths would they reveal? What brutal wisdom would they whisper to shake that poor self awake? Today, you're going to hear that letter. And if you let it, it can change your life. The letter a millionaire would write to their poor self. A 5-second message. Are you in debt? Want to know how to always have money? After watching this video, click the first link below, in the description or the pinned comment. Discover the Live Always with Money method. Find out the 10 steps that are changing lives. Link in the description and pinned comment. And for you, the one who knows you were born to be a millionaire, to be rich, I invite you to discover how to get rich through the power of thought. Access the method in the description. Golden Mindset, 30 Steps to Wealth Through the Power of the Mind. You are not broken. You are unawakened. Dear old me. There was a time I stared at the ceiling in the dark, wondering why I felt so small in a world that seemed so big. I thought something was wrong with me. I blamed my family, my lack of education, the place I was born. I looked at my bank account and saw a mirror of my worth. I thought I was a mistake, a ghost drifting through a life that others were allowed to live fully, while I was sentenced to scarcity. But let me tell you the truth that no one dared to whisper to you. You were never broken. You were simply unawakened. You didn't lack value. You lacked vision. You didn't lack intelligence. You lacked belief. You were sleepwalking through a dream someone else scripted for you, believing that what you had was all you'd ever get, because no one had shown you how to open your eyes. The world convinced you that you needed to be fixed, that you were behind, that you needed to earn your right to want more. But healing doesn't begin with fixing. It begins with remembering who you were before the world convinced you to shrink. You had fire. You had instincts. You had hunger. But it got buried beneath layers of shame, fear, routine, and fake humility. And instead of being taught to rise, you were taught to cope, to tolerate, to survive. But you weren't born for survival. You were born to ignite. I wish someone had told you that your reality wasn't carved in stone, it was drawn in sand, waiting for your courage to wash it clean. I wish someone had taken your face in their hands, looked into your tired eyes, and said, "You are not broken. You are dormant. Wake up." You didn't need more money to feel powerful. You needed to realize that the power was already inside you, suffocating, screaming, begging for a chance to lead. Your poverty wasn't just financial. It was emotional, spiritual. You were starved of truth, of vision, of alignment. You were told to shrink your dreams to fit your fears. But deep inside, something always burned, a flicker that refused to die. That flicker is who I became. I am not some better version of you. I am you, finally alive. I am the result of one thing. A decision. The day I stopped asking for permission. The day I stopped calling myself broken. The day I started asking better questions. What if I'm not the problem? What if this life doesn't reflect my capacity, but only my conditioning? You weren't meant to blend into the background of your own life. You weren't meant to bow to limitations dressed up as logic. Every time you doubted yourself, it wasn't a flaw, it was your soul resisting a lie. You weren't failing. You were being called to wake up. And I get it. Awakening is painful. It shatters illusions. It exposes excuses. It makes you see how long you've been playing dead with your eyes open. But that's where freedom begins. Not in fixing who you are, but in letting go of who you were never meant to be. This isn't about motivation. It's about remembering. You were never made to live in chains. You were never meant to dim your light. You were never destined for struggle. You were always capable, just not conscious. You don't need to be rebuilt. You need to rise. From this moment on, Stop apologizing for wanting more. Stop defining yourself by what you lack. You were never the sum of your failures. You are the spark that refused to go out. And now that you've seen the truth, you can't go back to sleep. Wake up. The world has been waiting on the real you. From the version of you who finally remembered. A 5-second message. Are you in debt? Want to know how to always have money? After watching this video, click the first link below, in the description or the pinned comment. Discover the Live Always with Money method. Find out the 10 steps that are changing lives. Link in the description and pinned comment. And for you, the one who knows you were born to be a millionaire, to be rich, I invite you to discover how to get rich through the power of thought. Access the method in the description. Golden Mindset, 30 Steps to Wealth Through the Power of the Mind. Stop worshiping comfort. It's killing you. There was a time when I believed I had found the secret to life. A steady paycheck, a familiar routine, a cozy apartment I could barely afford, and just enough time on weekends to distract myself from the quiet ache in my chest. I thought I was doing everything right. I wasn't chasing danger. I wasn't risking failure. I wasn't struggling. I was comfortable. And I was dying. Not in body, in spirit. My fire was suffocating under soft blankets of mediocrity. I was drugging my potential with just enough convenience to avoid confrontation with my purpose. But here's the truth no one tells you. Comfort is a seductive trap. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It tells you you're safe. It tells you you've earned a break. It tells you, this is enough. And worst of all, it tells you that the pain of reaching for more is worse than the ache of settling for less. I didn't realize it at the time, but every time I hit the snooze button on my dreams, literally and metaphorically, I was slowly burying the part of me that wanted to build something extraordinary. Comfort had become my cage. And because it was padded and quiet, I didn't recognize it as prison. I worked jobs I didn't love because they were easy. I stayed in relationships that numbed me because they were familiar. I avoided decisions that scared me because they weren't certain. And all the while, a quiet war was raging inside of me. The part that wanted to grow was fighting the part that wanted to rest. And comfort was winning, not because it was stronger, but because it was subtle. What I didn't see back then is that greatness never blooms in a greenhouse of ease. It's forged in storms. Nothing remarkable has ever come from staying in the shallow end. And yet, that's where I lived, because I had confused comfort with peace. But comfort isn't peace. It's paralysis dressed in luxury. Every day I chose not to challenge myself. I was voting against my future. Every time I took the easy route, I was reinforcing the belief that I wasn't meant for more. And worst of all, I began to think this was noble, like I was grateful for what I had. But there's a dangerous kind of gratitude that becomes resignation in disguise. I wasn't thankful. I was afraid. And I used gratitude as a mask to hide the fact that I had stopped dreaming. Let me be clear. Comfort will never demand you rise. It will never push you to expand. It will always give you a reason to wait, to rest, to postpone your calling until it's a better time. And before you know it, a year passes, then 5, then a decade. You won't even notice the slow fade, until one day, you wake up and wonder who you could have become if you had just dared to be uncomfortable. And that's when it hits you. You didn't avoid pain. You just traded one kind for another. You avoided the sting of risk, but inherited the ache of regret. You dodged the discomfort of growth, but swallowed the emptiness of stagnation. You chose short-term ease over long-term purpose. And now, the life you were meant to live is staring back at you like a stranger you'll never meet. Took everything in me to break free, to finally say, no more. No more worshiping the false god of ease. No more bowing to convenience as if it were sacred. No more sacrificing my potential on the altar of temporary relief. The truth is, your destiny lives on the other side of discomfort. Every breakthrough I've had, every leap forward, came wrapped in fear, uncertainty, awkwardness, and sweat. That's not punishment. That's initiation. The fire doesn't burn you to destroy you. It burns away what you're not, so who you truly are can emerge. Discomfort is not the enemy. It's the invitation. It's in the cold mornings when no one's watching. It's in the hard conversations you don't want to have. It's in the lonely hours of creation, when the world is asleep and you're building something that doesn't exist yet. It's in the sacrifices no one applauds, the efforts no one sees, the failures no one celebrates. But those moments, that's where you meet yourself. That's where transformation lives. The lie of comfort is that if you just rest long enough, things will get better. But the truth is, comfort doesn't improve your life. It just pauses your decay. It doesn't heal you. It just delays your pain. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your entire existence in a lukewarm lullaby, numb, neutral, and quietly disappearing. So here's my plea to you. Don't wait for discomfort to chase you. Chase it first. Make it your ally. Let it stretch you, shape you, sharpen you. Be willing to feel foolish. Be willing to feel uncertain. Be willing to be terrible at something before you're great at it. Because that willingness, that's where power is born. There is no safety in the slow death of comfort. There is only sleep. And you were not made to sleep through your destiny. You were made to rise, run, and rebuild your reality from the raw material of courage. It's time to burn the blanket. It's time to divorce the lie that easy is better. It's time to fall in love with the challenge. Because that's where your next life lives. Comfort was never your friend. It was your anesthetic. And you've been numb long enough. From the version of you who finally chose the fire. No one is coming. And that's your superpower. There's a certain kind of silence that grows in your soul when you've been waiting too long. Waiting for a sign, for a break, for someone to notice your pain and decide you're worth rescuing. I know that silence well. I lived in it. I listened to it echo in my chest as the days passed, whispering that maybe, just maybe, someone would show up to lift me out of the quicksand. But no one ever did. I waited for a mentor to find me. I imagined a stranger seeing my hidden potential and handing me the keys to a better life. I fantasized about luck, about destiny, about the universe finally deciding I had suffered enough. But every time I looked over my shoulder for a helping hand, the world just kept spinning. Indifferent. Silent. And that silence, it used to break me. Until one day I let it shape me instead. The brutal beauty of life is this. No one is coming. And that's not a curse. That's the call. No one's coming to rewrite your story. No one's coming to validate your dreams. No one's coming to fix your finances, mend your heart, or build your future. And the moment you truly grasp that, not just intellectually but viscerally, is the moment you tap into something extraordinary. Ownership. Because if no one is coming, then everything is up to you. And that is where your power begins. Not when you're chosen, but when you choose yourself. When I stopped waiting, I started moving. When I stopped hoping for someone to see me, I turned inward and saw myself. I realized the cavalry wasn't late, it was never supposed to come. And the person I was waiting for had always been me. It's easy to fall in love with the fantasy of being rescued. It's comfortable to believe that the reason your life hasn't changed is because the right opportunity just hasn't knocked yet. But opportunity doesn't knock. It's built. Brick by brick. Sweat by sweat. Decision by decision. You build it when you get tired of waiting. You build it when you're sick of your own excuses. You build it when you finally understand that every second you spend expecting someone else to change your life is a second you're abandoning your own power. No one is coming to tell you you're worthy. No one is coming to pull you out of bed. No one is coming to make you believe in yourself. That's your job, and it always has been. That realization is not depressing. It's liberating. Because if no one is responsible for saving you, then no one can stop you. You don't need permission anymore. You don't need approval. You don't need the stars to align, or the timing to be perfect, or the fear to be gone. You just need to begin, with whatever you have wherever you are. Maybe all you have is an idea. Maybe all you have is a few minutes of courage. Maybe all you have is the willingness to try again. Good. That's enough. People waste lifetimes waiting for circumstances to become ideal. But conditions are never perfect, and they're never supposed to be. The path doesn't clear until you start walking. The doors don't open until you reach for the handle. The answers don't come until you ask better questions. And strength. Strength is not something you find. It's something you forge. There is a version of you, buried beneath the debris of doubt and delay, that is so much more capable than you think. But you'll never meet that version if you keep outsourcing your future to luck, to timing, to other people. You will never meet your potential if you keep giving the pen to someone else and asking them to write your ending. Pick up the pen. Write your beginning. Then rewrite it again when it falls apart. Because it will. But that's the point. That's how you rise. No mentor will believe in you until you believe in yourself. No investor will back a vision you haven't committed to. No opportunity will land in your lap if you're too afraid to lift your hands. This world isn't built to hand out dreams. It rewards those bold enough to build them with their bare hands. When I finally accepted that no one was coming, something cracked open inside me. A fire. A fury. A clarity. I saw every excuse for what it really was. A delay tactic. A shield against failure. But also a shield against freedom. You don't need to be discovered. You need to be decisive. You don't need a savior. You need a standard. You don't need more time. You need more truth. Because the truth is this: you are it. You are the answer. You are the missing piece. You are the hero of the story you've been begging someone else to live for you. The sooner you realize that, the faster your life will shift. Not because the world will change, but because you will. So no one is coming. And that's the best thing that could have ever happened to you. From the version of you who stopped waiting and started building. Poor isn't about money. It's about mental prison. I used to believe poverty was about empty pockets, that my problem was financial, not foundational. I looked at my bank account like it was a verdict. I thought numbers defined my worth. But I was wrong. I wasn't broke because of my income. I was broke because of my beliefs. The real poverty wasn't in my wallet. It was in my mind. You can't see mental poverty in a mirror. It doesn't show up in your clothes or your car. It hides in your language, in the way you explain your failures, in the excuses you make before trying, in the way you whisper to yourself that this is just how life is. That's where true poverty lives, in the unseen bars of limitation you accept as normal. I used to wear those chains every day. I thought other people were just lucky. I believed success required permission. I blamed the system, my past, my parents, my city, my timing. I pointed my finger at everything except the one thing I could actually change. Me. That was my bankruptcy. Not financial, mental. I had ideas, but I killed them before they could breathe. I had dreams, but I buried them under rationalizations. I thought I needed more money to get started, but what I really needed was more responsibility, more ownership, more internal fire. I kept waiting for circumstances to improve, but the truth was, my environment wasn't the prison. My thinking was. And here's the part no one tells you. Most people in poverty don't realize they're free to leave, not because the door is locked, but because they've stopped looking for a handle. It's not just about scarcity of resources. It's about scarcity of vision, of belief, of agency. And once you adopt the identity of someone who is trapped, you begin to act like it. You don't try. You don't risk. You don't learn. You don't build. You stay in the cage even after the door swings open, because in your mind, it's still closed. That's the cruelty of mental poverty. It doesn't just limit what you have. It limits what you see. You become blind to possibilities, deaf to opportunities, paralyzed by stories you didn't even choose to believe, stories handed down to you, repeated around you, reinforced by a world that profits from your silence. But the moment I realized I had the power to rewrite those stories, something shifted. Not instantly, not dramatically, but deeply. I began catching myself, not just in what I said, but in what I believed. When I'd hear myself say, "I can't afford that," I changed it to, "How can I create enough value to afford that?" When I wanted to say, "People like me don't win," I challenged it with, "Who told you that, and why did you believe them?" When I heard the voice of fear, I answered with strategy. When I felt small, I started acting anyway. Because the prison was never real. Only the belief in it was. We live in a world where you can learn anything, build anything, connect with anyone. But if you believe you're poor in potential, you'll stay poor in results. You'll reject possibilities before they get close enough to embrace. You'll sabotage blessings before they even arrive. And worst of all, you'll start defending the very mindset that's keeping you stuck. Because familiarity always feels safer than freedom when you've been captive for too long. I know because I defended my own cage for years. I called my fear realism. I called my hesitation wisdom. I called my playing small humility. But deep down, I was just scared. Scared to try. Scared to fail. Scared to be wrong about what I thought was true. Then I realized, the cost of staying small is far greater than the risk of reaching high. Because staying poor in mindset doesn't just rob you, it robs everyone who is meant to be impacted by your gifts. You don't need to wait for more money to think like someone who builds. You don't need permission to think like someone who leads. You don't need credentials to think like someone who creates wealth. You need a decision. One that says, I'm done thinking poor. Because that's where it begins. Not with action, not with achievement, but with a mental jailbreak that says, I don't care what my past looked like. I don't care what I've been told. I don't care how long I've believed the lie. Today, I take back the pen. Today, I think different. Today, I stop handing my mind to a system that wants me small. And from that shift, everything changes. You speak differently. You walk differently. You work differently. You carry a quiet certainty that says, I know who I was. But that version of me is gone. I buried the mental poverty. I fired the inner critic. I reclaimed my name. This world doesn't owe you anything. But you owe it to yourself to stop living like you're powerless. You were never poor. You were just programmed to believe you were. And the moment you start thinking like someone who's free, the world has no choice but to adjust to your new vibration. Because the mind commands the outer reality. Every time. Without fail. So don't chase money. Chase mental freedom. Because once you own that, everything else follows. From the version of you who broke out and never looked back. You don't need permission to be great. 4 years I waited. I waited for the right moment. I waited for the perfect conditions. I waited for someone to tell me, you're ready. I waited for permission. I don't think I realized it at the time, but that waiting was a form of surrender. It was as if I handed my future to a stranger, expecting them to decide whether I was worthy of success or not. I wanted someone to recognize the fire inside me, someone to validate my dreams and say, yes, you can do this. But no one came. No one handed me a crown. No one told me I was ready. The validation I was seeking never arrived because, in reality, the world doesn't hand out permission slips to greatness. It doesn't wait for your qualifications. It doesn't care if you have it all figured out. It doesn't whisper in your ear, now you can begin. If you're waiting for someone else to give you permission to be great, you're wasting your time. You don't need anyone's approval to rise. The world doesn't decide when you're allowed to succeed. You do. You are your own gatekeeper. You are the one who decides if you'll step into your full potential, or if you'll stay small, waiting for a signal that may never come. Greatness doesn't need permission. It needs action. I spent too many years waiting for external validation. I wanted someone to tell me I was enough, to show me that my dreams weren't too big, to reassure me that I was capable of more. But what I didn't realize was that waiting for that approval was the thing that kept me stuck. It wasn't just holding me back. It was creating an illusion that success was something that had to be granted to me, not something I could claim for myself. But the truth is this: no one has the power to grant you greatness. No one can tell you when you're ready, because no one can ever truly know your potential better than you. Only you can recognize it. And more importantly, only you can take the first step toward realizing it. I wish I had understood this sooner, that greatness isn't about waiting to be picked. It's about claiming what's already yours. No permission required. In fact, the truth is a little harsher. Greatness is earned through action, not approval. It's built on courage, not confidence. It's cultivated by moving forward before you're ready, and taking action even when the doubt is louder than the certainty. Because here's the secret. Confidence isn't something you wait to feel, it's something you gain through the very act of doing. You don't get confident by sitting around waiting for the perfect conditions. You don't get confident by watching other people succeed and wishing you could be them. Confidence is the side effect of stepping into the unknown. It's the byproduct of the moments when you take a risk, when you make that first call, when you say, I'm doing this, even though you have no idea how it will turn out. That's where greatness lives. In the moments when you're terrified but you move anyway. In the moments when you doubt your abilities, but you press forward regardless. In the moments when everyone else is waiting for permission, and you decide you're not. You don't need permission to act. You don't need permission to create. You don't need permission to claim your success. You don't need permission to live your purpose. When I started acting without waiting for someone else's approval, everything shifted. I didn't have it all figured out. I didn't have the perfect plan. But I had something more powerful. The belief that I was the one in control of my future. I stopped asking for permission. I stopped waiting for someone to tell me I was ready. And that's when everything changed. I can't promise you that the path will be easy, or that you won't face failure, or that you won't doubt yourself along the way. What I can promise is that when you start, when you make the decision to take action despite your doubts, everything you've ever wanted will start to move toward you. Because the universe doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards action. Greatness isn't about being perfect from the start. It's about doing it anyway, despite the uncertainty, despite the setbacks, despite the fear. Greatness is about creating opportunities instead of waiting for them to appear. It's about looking at what you have and building from there, no matter how small your starting point is. So here's the truth I wish I had known. You don't need permission. You never did. You only need the courage to start, to take the first step, no matter how imperfect it might feel. Because when you start moving, everything else starts to move with you. The universe responds to action. It responds to commitment. It responds to courage. And that's when you realize that the permission you were waiting for was inside you all along. You don't need someone else's stamp of approval. You are the approval. You are the permission. And once you realize that, you'll see that your greatness has always been waiting for you. You just had to step into it. Start before you're ready. Start when you're afraid. Start with what you have. Start now. And watch what happens next. From the version of you who stopped waiting and began creating. They lied to you about time. We've all been lied to about time. From the day we're born, we're told there's plenty of it. You've got time. Don't rush. Take it easy. You have all the time in the world. We hear these words from well-meaning people, from family, friends, and society at large. They're comforting words, meant to ease our anxieties, to make us feel like there's no need to hurry. But here's the ugly truth. They're wrong. Time isn't a luxury. It's not something we can afford to waste or take for granted. In fact, time is the most ruthless assassin you'll ever meet. Every second you squander is a second you'll never get back. Every moment you spend in idle comfort or procrastination isn't just a missed opportunity. It's a slow death for your dreams. I was once that person who believed there would always be more time. I would tell myself, I'll start tomorrow. Or there's no rush, I have plenty of years ahead of me. And for a while that excuse felt good. It felt comforting. It allowed me to delay the hard decisions, the sacrifices, the hustle. It let me keep my dreams on the shelf, gathering dust, waiting for the right moment. But that right moment never came. I wasted days, weeks, months, and years, thinking I had more time to chase my dreams, more time to build my future. The truth is, I was robbing myself. I was handing over my most valuable resource, time, to things that didn't matter, to habits that didn't serve me, to distractions that kept me small. And when the realization hit me, it was crushing. Time waits for no one. No one is guaranteed tomorrow. The world doesn't stop just because you're getting ready, or waiting for the stars to align. If you don't take action, your dreams will quietly die. And you won't even realize it until it's too late. Here's the most dangerous lie of all. Time doesn't care about your excuses. The poor self believes that there's always time to get started. The poor self says, I'll work on my goals tomorrow, or I'll start when I feel more confident, or I'll wait until the right circumstances come. But the rich self? The rich self knows that time is the ultimate currency. The rich self invests every moment, every minute, every hour in the pursuit of greatness. The rich self understands that every second is a building block, a chance to create something that matters. Time isn't something you spend. It's something you invest. How you invest your time will determine how you live your life. If you spend your days scrolling through social media, binge-watching TV shows, or procrastinating on the things that matter most, you're not just wasting time. You're allowing your dreams to starve. You're giving the thief of time free access to your life, and he will rob you blind without a second thought. The poor self spends time. The rich self invests it. But investing your time doesn't mean working yourself into the ground. It doesn't mean you have to grind endlessly without rest. It means being intentional with every minute you have. It means choosing to focus on things that move you closer to your goals. Even when the work is hard, even when you're tired, even when the path seems unclear. It means protecting your time like a sacred asset because, in reality, it is. When you start viewing time as an investment, everything changes. You stop treating your day as a series of wasted moments. You start looking for opportunities to make every second count. Every meeting, every conversation, every action becomes an investment in your future. You stop diluting your energy on things that don't serve you and start putting it into activities that build your legacy. I had to learn this lesson the hard way. I had to hit rock bottom before I realized how much time I had wasted. And now, looking back, I can't help but wish I had realized the truth sooner. Time isn't endless. It's fleeting, fragile, and finite. And you can either be the one who shapes how you spend it, or you can be the one who lets time shape you. It's easy to think we have forever. It's easy to think there will always be another day, another opportunity, another chance to chase our dreams. But let me tell you something. The more you tell yourself that, the more you're allowing time to slip away unnoticed. You're letting the assassin of routine creep up behind you, robbing you of the future you deserve. The wealthy understand this truth intimately. They don't waste time. They don't wait for permission. They don't delay their goals. They know that every moment is an investment, and they act accordingly. They make decisions quickly. They learn quickly. They act quickly. And while you're waiting for the perfect time, they're using every second to build their empire. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't always talent, resources, or opportunity. It's the ability to recognize time for what it is, a limited resource, and to act with the urgency and precision it demands. While you're waiting for tomorrow, someone else is making today count. If you want to build wealth, build your future, and create a life that matters, stop waiting. Stop assuming you have all the time in the world. Time doesn't wait for you to get your act together. It moves whether you're ready or not. And one day, you'll look back and realize how much of it you've let slip away. Don't let that happen. Protect your time like your millions depend on it, because they do. Every second spent is a second closer to your dreams, or further from them. The choice is yours. Invest in your future now. Start today. Time is the most valuable asset you have. Use it wisely. You're not lazy. You're uninspired. For years, I believed I was lazy. I thought I simply didn't have the discipline that other successful people had. I'd look at them and wonder why they seemed to have endless energy, while I struggled just to get out of bed in the morning. I'd see them diving into their work with enthusiasm, while I dragged myself through my days, just trying to get by. I told myself, if only I had more discipline, more willpower, I could achieve what they have. But the truth is, it wasn't laziness. It was something much deeper. It was a lack of inspiration. You see, discipline is often praised as the key to success. We're told to push through and stay consistent. But the reality is, discipline alone is not enough. If you're not inspired, if you don't have a reason that makes your soul burn with passion, no amount of discipline will keep you going. You'll always feel drained, always feel like you're forcing yourself to take action, and in the end, you'll burn out. The problem isn't that you're lazy. The problem is that you haven't found something that lights you up from the inside. You haven't connected with a mission, a purpose, or a vision that makes you jump out of bed every day, ready to take on the world. If you've ever felt like you're stuck in a rut, like you're just going through the motions of life without real enthusiasm, know this: you're not lazy. You're uninspired. When you lack something to drive you, something that excites you, the will to get up and work fades. It's not about being undisciplined. It's about not having a strong enough reason to fight through the resistance. We all need something to believe in, something that gives us the energy to rise above the excuses. Without a deep sense of purpose, you won't have the inner fire to fuel you when things get hard. Motivation won't be enough to push you through the inevitable obstacles. But when you're inspired, when you're aligned with a vision that resonates with your soul, you don't need motivation. You become the motivation. The energy you need to take massive action is already inside you. I know this from experience. For years, I struggled with productivity. I'd sit down at my desk, look at my goals, and feel a sense of dread. The tasks in front of me felt like mountains I couldn't climb. I told myself I just needed to get disciplined. But no matter how hard I tried, it felt like I was pushing a boulder uphill. My efforts were drained of passion. My actions were robotic. And it wasn't because I was lazy. It was because I was doing the wrong things. Things that didn't excite me, things that didn't inspire me. Then, everything changed when I found my mission. It wasn't a new technique or a self-help hack that turned things around. It wasn't another morning routine or productivity app. It was when I discovered a vision bigger than my excuses. When I found a cause, a purpose, that made me feel alive. Suddenly, every task became easier. Every step felt meaningful. I wasn't forcing myself to work anymore. I was eager to work. I had a vision so clear and powerful that I didn't need to rely on external motivation to keep going. The mission itself fueled me. The key to overcoming laziness is finding something worth fighting for. A mission that speaks to your heart, something that aligns with your deepest desires. When you connect with something bigger than yourself, your excuses lose their power. You no longer waste time wondering if you'll feel like it today, because your purpose will give you the energy to push through those moments when you feel weak or uninspired. It's crucial to understand that motivation is temporary. It's fleeting. It comes in waves. But inspiration, a deep, soul-stirring passion for something greater, can carry you through any challenge, any setback, and any doubt. When you're inspired, discipline becomes effortless. You don't need to force yourself to take action. Action becomes natural, because you're driven by something that resonates at a much deeper level. You can work harder and longer than you ever thought possible, but only if you find what electrifies your soul. That's the secret. It's not about pushing yourself harder or beating yourself up for not being disciplined enough. It's about finding the thing that makes your heart race, that makes your mind light up, that makes you feel unstoppable. Once you find that, everything else becomes easier. For me, this realization came when I stopped focusing solely on how to achieve my goals, and instead focused on why those goals mattered. I started to ask myself the hard questions. What is the mission I want to pour my energy into? What is the difference I want to make in the world? What is the legacy I want to leave behind? Once I connected with my purpose, the pieces started falling into place. I became unstoppable because I had a fire inside me that no amount of self-doubt or external obstacles could extinguish. I didn't need to rely on a perfect morning routine or a productivity system to get me going. I was driven by a mission that made all of those things seem secondary. The fire I had inside me made everything else fall into place. If you want to become the best version of yourself, you need to connect with something that matters. Find your passion. Find your purpose. Find the thing that makes you wake up every day, ready to take on the world. Because when you have a mission that excites you, discipline becomes a natural extension of that excitement. You no longer need to force yourself to work. You don't need to rely on motivation because the mission will give you all the energy you need. So, stop labeling yourself as lazy. It's not your discipline that's lacking. It's your inspiration. Discover what makes you feel alive. Discover what makes you want to leap out of bed every morning. When you find that, you won't need motivation ever again. You'll be driven by the fire inside you, and everything else will fall into place. The world will reflect what you believe you deserve. For years, I accepted less than I deserved. It wasn't because I didn't have big dreams. It wasn't that I didn't desire success or fulfillment. No, the truth was much more subtle. I never truly believed I was worthy of the life I dreamed of. I would settle for mediocrity in my relationships, in my career, in my health, because deep down, I believed that I wasn't deserving of more. This wasn't a conscious decision. It wasn't a choice I made with full awareness. It was a belief that I carried deep inside, a belief that shaped every area of my life without me even realizing it. I used to think that my circumstances were simply a result of bad luck or the hand I was dealt. I blamed the world, the system, the people around me. But the truth was, the world was only reflecting what I subconsciously believed about myself. Life is a mirror, and what you see in that mirror is often the result of the beliefs you hold deep inside about what you deserve. When I was stuck in a cycle of disappointment and struggle, I didn't realize it, but I was constantly reinforcing this idea that I was just good enough. I never dared to believe that I could have the extraordinary life I secretly desired, because I didn't believe I was worthy of it. And that belief created a self-fulfilling prophecy. Every time I reached for more, I would back away, subconsciously sabotaging my efforts, because I didn't truly believe I deserved to succeed. When you carry the belief that you are unworthy, It affects everything. Your choices, your actions, your interactions with others, even your own self-image. You'll accept less than you deserve in your career because you'll convince yourself that you're lucky to have a job at all. You'll settle for toxic relationships because deep down, you think you don't deserve someone who truly values you. You'll compromise your health and happiness because you don't believe you're worth the effort. The thing is, the world will reflect back to you exactly what you believe you deserve. If you think you deserve a life of struggle and lack, that's what the universe will mirror. If you think you deserve respect, success, love, and abundance, then the world will start to align with that belief. It's not magic. It's the law of attraction in its truest form. What you put out, you get back. Your beliefs shape your reality, and until you change those beliefs, your life will remain stuck in the same cycle. For years, I couldn't understand why no matter how hard I worked, I didn't seem to get ahead. I'd try and try, but it always felt like I was pushing a boulder uphill. It wasn't until I faced the truth that everything I had been experiencing was a reflection of my own internal beliefs. I had been selling myself short. I was afraid of reaching for something bigger because I didn't think I was worthy of it. I didn't believe I deserved success, love, abundance, or peace. I thought I was meant to struggle, and so, struggle became my reality. Once I woke up to this truth, everything changed. I had to start by changing the way I saw myself. I had to stop believing that I was just another person destined for a mediocre life. I had to let go of the notion that I was meant to struggle and that success was reserved for others. I had to believe that I was worthy of greatness. I had to believe that I deserved to live the life of my dreams, that I was deserving of wealth, health, love, and success. But changing that internal narrative wasn't easy. It required a deep transformation, one that came from within. I had to look at my past choices, my past actions, and my past beliefs, and realize that they were all driven by a sense of unworthiness. I had to confront the parts of myself that believed I was not good enough, not smart enough, not capable enough. I had to challenge those beliefs and replace them with new, empowering ones. I began to tell myself a new story. I started to act as though I was worthy of success, even when my external circumstances hadn't yet changed. I started making decisions from a place of abundance, not scarcity. I stopped settling for less because I now knew that I deserved more. I began to surround myself with people who uplifted me, who saw my potential and helped me see it too. I started to embrace opportunities that scared me, knowing that my dreams were worth the fear. As I upgraded my identity and started to believe that I deserved more, everything began to shift. Opportunities that had once seemed out of reach began to appear. I found myself in the right rooms, meeting the right people, having conversations I had only dreamed of. My finances started to improve, my relationships deepened, and I began to feel a sense of peace and contentment that I had never known before. The world reflected back to me the new identity I was building, one of worthiness, confidence, and limitless potential. But this transformation didn't happen overnight. It took time, patience, and a lot of inner work. I had to unlearn old habits, question limiting beliefs, and create new patterns of thinking. But most importantly, I had to believe. I had to believe that I was worthy of everything I desired. I had to believe that I deserved abundance, love, and success. And once I truly believed that, the world began to respond accordingly. You must understand that your current reality is a direct reflection of your internal beliefs. If you're struggling, if you're unhappy, if you feel stuck, it's not because the world is against you. It's because you are reflecting back to the world the belief that you deserve to struggle. The moment you upgrade your identity, the moment you believe you deserve greatness, your entire reality will begin to shift. So, ask yourself, what do you truly believe you deserve? Do you believe you deserve the life you're dreaming of, or do you settle for what comes your way? The world will always reflect what you believe you deserve. If you want a better life, you must first upgrade your beliefs about yourself and what you deserve. Change your internal narrative. Start believing that you are worthy of everything you desire, and watch the world change in response. When you believe in your worth, the world will mirror that belief back to you in ways you never imagined. Upgrade your identity, and your results will follow. Rejection is just redirection to richer paths. Rejection. The word itself has the power to stir a myriad of emotions, to bring forth memories of frustration, pain, and defeat. For a long time, I took rejection personally. Every no felt like a confirmation that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't measure up, that I wasn't worthy of success. I would cry over closed doors, desperate for the opportunities one thought I deserved. But what I didn't realize then was that those doors weren't closing to hurt me, they were closing to protect me. And each no was not a sign of failure, but a redirection towards something greater. We live in a world where rejection is often seen as a negative experience, a symbol of inadequacy. We are conditioned to believe that when something doesn't go our way, we've failed. But the reality is, rejection is not the end. It's merely a detour on the road to a richer, more fulfilling destiny. In fact, it is often the very thing that leads us to the life we were truly meant to live. But it takes a shift in mindset to understand that. For most of my life, I struggled with rejection. Every setback felt like a crushing blow to my self-worth. Every door that slammed shut felt like a personal attack on my abilities, my dreams, and my worth. I thought that if I just tried hard enough, if I pushed a little more, I could force those doors to open. But the harder I pushed, the more the universe seemed to push back. And each time I faced rejection, I became more and more disheartened. I began to believe that I was unworthy of success, that maybe the things I wanted were too big, too far out of reach. But then something shifted. Slowly, over time, I began to see rejection through a different lens. I started to realize that every time I was rejected, I wasn't being punished. I wasn't being cast aside. I was simply being redirected. I was being guided away from paths that were not meant for me, paths that would have led me down roads of mediocrity and disappointment. In essence, rejection was becoming my guide, my divine GPS, showing me where not to go, so I could focus on where I needed to be. The poor version of myself viewed rejection as the end of the line, as a sign to quit. The rich version of myself, however, saw rejection as an opportunity, a sign that there was something bigger, better, and more aligned with my true purpose waiting for me. What's meant for you isn't behind you. It's not in the things that didn't work out, the deals that fell through, or the opportunities that passed you by. What's meant for you is ahead of you, waiting for you to step into it. Imagine this: every rejection, every failure, every setback is merely a stepping stone towards something greater. You may not see it in the moment, but the universe is working on your behalf, steering you in the direction of your true potential. What seems like a setback is actually a setup for something better, something that aligns more perfectly with who you are and who you are becoming. It wasn't until I embraced this concept that my perspective on rejection truly transformed. I stopped taking it personally and started seeing it as a blessing in disguise. Instead of asking myself, why didn't this work out? Why wasn't I chosen? I started asking, what is the universe protecting me from? What is the lesson here? How is this leading me to something greater? This shift in perspective was revolutionary. I began to see every no as a confirmation that I was being guided toward a more fulfilling path. I stopped chasing after things that weren't meant for me, and I started trusting that the right opportunities would come when the time was right. And they did. Looking back now, I realized that the moments of rejection, the closed doors, were the greatest gifts I could have received. They protected me from situations that would have drained me, kept me stuck, or led me down paths that weren't aligned with my true purpose. Instead, they cleared the way for something better, something that was in line with my values, my goals, and my vision for the future. Those rejections weren't failures. They were simply the universe's way of telling me, not this way. This way is better. But this understanding didn't come easily. It took time, self-reflection, and a willingness to let go of the need to control every outcome. It took a deep level of trust in myself and in the process of life. I had to stop seeing rejection as a reflection of my worth and start seeing it as a tool that was leading me to where I needed to be. And once I embraced this mindset, everything changed. Opportunities that once seemed elusive began to flow to me effortlessly. I stopped fighting against the current and began to trust the direction in which I was being led. I realized that rejection was not the end of my journey, but simply a redirection, a way for the universe to show me that the path I was on was not the right one, and that something even better was waiting for me just around the corner. Now, when I face rejection, I don't get discouraged. I don't take it personally. I don't allow it to diminish my confidence or make me question my worth. Instead, I embrace it. I see it as a signal that I am being guided towards something greater. I trust that what's meant for me will come in its own time, and that the detours I face along the way are simply the universe's way of protecting me from what's not aligned with my true purpose. You don't need to fear rejection. You don't need to take it personally. Every no is simply a redirection to something better, a sign that the universe is working in your favor. Trust the process. Trust that you are being guided toward your true destiny. And when the doors open, and they will, you'll know that they are opening not because you forced them, but because they were meant for you all along. What's meant for you isn't behind you. It's ahead of you, waiting for you to step into it. So, the next time you face rejection, remember, it's not the end. It's just the beginning of something bigger, richer, and more aligned with who you truly are. Keep going. Your path is being paved with every no you receive. The real flex is inner peace, not outer proof. Dear former self, you were exhausted, but not from labor, from pretending. Pretending to be further ahead than you were. Pretending you weren't afraid. Pretending you were fine with chasing validation, even though it was slowly killing your spirit. You believed the lie. The one that says success is loud, that you have to shout, flash, prove, perform. That only when the world applauds are you allowed to feel valuable. That without external confirmation, your life meant nothing. So, you chased noise. You fought to be seen. You confused visibility with value. You thought the Lamborghini would heal the boy who felt invisible. That watches could compensate for time you wasted. That applause could replace approval from within. But let me tell you what they never told us. The loudest person in the room is often the most broken. The most expensive life often hides the poorest peace. You thought power was possession, but power, real power, is stillness. Silence. Solitude without suffering. The greatest luxury isn't a penthouse. It's waking up and not needing the world to clap for you. Not needing to be understood. Not needing to be seen to feel significant. True wealth is invisible. It's in your breath when no one's watching. It's in your heart when you no longer chase, but choose. It's in the way you walk through fire without announcing the flames. Back then, you were addicted to proof. Every step had to be justified. Every achievement had to be witnessed. You couldn't enjoy the moment unless it was photographed, filtered, shared. You couldn't celebrate silently. It had to be broadcasted, or it didn't feel real. But peace doesn't need an audience. Peace doesn't post. It doesn't ask for permission. You thought discipline was punishment. But real discipline is freedom. The ability to say no, not just to distractions, but to dysfunction. You thought boundaries were walls, but they're actually doors to peace. The kind of peace you don't trade, even for 1 billion likes. Your younger self didn't understand that all the outward things, the status, the sparkle, the spectacle, they're easy. Anyone can rent luxury. Anyone can fake confidence. But inner peace? That's rare. That's earned. That's forged in silence and fire, not noise and applause. There's a reason they say, rich and quiet. Because the truly wealthy aren't shouting. They're listening. They're choosing. They're not reacting. They're designing. And what they're designing isn't just a life that looks good on paper. It's a life that feels like home in the soul. You used to flex with things. Now you flex with boundaries. With rest. With presence. With being completely unreachable to chaos. You thought being available to everyone meant you mattered. But now you understand. Availability without discernment is slavery. You were giving away your attention like it was worthless. You were letting people rent space in your mind who hadn't earned the right to enter your heart. Now, you guard your energy like a fortress. Not out of arrogance, but reverence. Your peace is your empire. You don't let chaos through the gates anymore. You don't debate your worth. You don't argue with critics. You don't try to convert doubters. You simply walk forward. Quietly, consistently, unbothered. Because the loud world? It's still chasing shadows. But you became the light. And that light doesn't burn out for praise. It doesn't flicker for attention. It shines because it's connected to something deeper. Something unshakable. You used to measure success by noise. Followers, fame, feedback. Now, success sounds like silence, because your mind is no longer at war. Your heart is no longer desperate. Your life is no longer a performance. There is no pressure to prove when you're living in alignment. You've realized that elegance is in restraint. That maturity is knowing when not to speak. That strength is not in dominance, but in self-possession. The world tells you to hustle harder, to show more, to build faster. But you know better now. You know that sometimes the most powerful move is to pause. To protect your peace even when the world calls it laziness. To say no even when it offends. To walk away not out of fear, but out of clarity. Because not everything deserves your presence. Not everything deserves a response. Not every opportunity is aligned with your calling. And not every battle is yours to fight. The real flex? Not needing to explain that. So you don't. You sit. You breathe. You listen. You move when it's time, and only then. Because your life isn't a race anymore. It's a sanctuary. And your peace? It's the crown you no longer beg the world to place on your head. You wear it silently, proudly, without the need for proof. Because now you know, stillness is strength, peace is power, and alignment is the loudest victory of all. Money doesn't change you. It amplifies you. Dear former self, you used to look at rich people with a mix of envy and suspicion. Part of you craved their lifestyle, but another part of you whispered, they must have sold their soul for it. You feared that success required becoming someone else, someone colder, harder, detached from real life. You clung to the belief that staying broke somehow preserved your purity. That struggle built character, while wealth corrupted it. That desiring more was dangerous. That to want wealth was to risk losing your soul. But you were wrong. Money doesn't twist you into a stranger. It turns up the volume on who you already are. If you're selfish when you're broke, you'll be ruthless when you're rich. If you're kind when you have little, you'll be generous with much. Wealth is not a personality transplant. It's a magnifier. It reveals. It exposes. It removes the mask of not enough and shows the truth behind your intentions. You used to think money was evil. But money is neutral. It's the person holding it that determines whether it heals or harms. Money in the hands of the insecure becomes a weapon. Money in the hands of the whole becomes a tool for transformation. You thought riches would turn you into someone arrogant. But now you understand. If arrogance grows, it was already buried deep, waiting to be watered. If compassion grows, it too was a seed long planted in your soul. Money didn't rewrite your script. It just turned up the speaker. You feared that success would erase your authenticity. But in reality, the only thing that destroys authenticity is abandoning your values for validation. If you don't know who you are without wealth, money will be a dangerous mirror. It will reflect your emptiness in HD. It will multiply your addictions, magnify your fears, echo your unresolved wounds through every purchase. Because money doesn't come with instructions. It comes with freedom. And that freedom can either build empires or burn bridges, depending on the hands it falls into. You used to think the hardest part was earning it. No. The hardest part is handling it without losing yourself. That's why the inner work comes first. Not because wealth is wrong, but because it's powerful. And power in the hands of the emotionally unprepared is poison. You have to clean your house before you upgrade it, or you'll bring old dust into a new palace. Back then, you obsessed over commas. Now, you obsess over character. Because you've learned that if you don't master your emotions, your money will. If you don't rule your thoughts, your income will control your identity. And if you don't own your truth, your bank account will fund your destruction. You used to idolize those who flaunted, the ones who wore gold like armor, who shouted wins like war cries. But over time you saw through the act. Some of them were just scared little kids hiding behind designer logos. Because no amount of wealth can patch a leaky soul. You've come to realize, money is a mirror, not a mask. It doesn't protect you from yourself. It shows you, with brutal honesty, whether you've healed or not. Do you feel the need to dominate? That power was already your poison. Do you spend to impress? That insecurity was always pulsing beneath the surface. Do you give because it feeds your ego? That generosity isn't real. It's performance. But do you invest in others with no need for applause? That's wealth aligned with purpose. Do you build silently, steadily, with no thirst for credit? That's abundance without ego. You've seen both types, those who get rich and implode, and those who rise and quietly multiply light around them. The difference, not talent, not even strategy, it's identity. You must become the person who can handle abundance before abundance shows up, or you'll treat prosperity like a burden, not a blessing. Money will not teach you discipline. It will expose your lack of it. Money will not teach you vision. It will inflate whatever short-sighted plan you already carry. Money will not give you peace. It will test whether you ever had it to begin with. When you were broke, you thought money would give you power. Now you know, power comes first. The kind that whispers, "I will not be owned by what I own." Because that's the paradox. Money gives you choices, but only character gives you clarity. Without clarity, you'll build castles on sand, and wealth will bury you in what you thought would set you free. You don't fear money anymore. You respect it. You see it as energy, not identity. As a multiplier, not a savior. And you know now, if your heart is aligned, your money will be, too. If your soul is clean, your success won't stain it. You stopped chasing money like a lifeline, and it came chasing you because you became someone who could carry it with grace. So to the you who still fears success, still questions whether wealth will ruin you, heal first. Lead with integrity. Live your truth in the quiet, and when the loud comes, it will have no power over you. Because money doesn't define you. It just shouts what you've been whispering all along. You were always meant for more, but you have to choose it. You didn't come here to live a quiet, unlived life. You weren't born to decorate the background of someone else's story. There has always been something inside you, a tension, a knowing, a subtle ache, whispering, "This can't be all there is." That whisper? It wasn't fantasy. It was memory of the life you were built to live, of the power you buried beneath politeness, fear, and fitting in. The truth is, your soul never forgot. But you did. You forgot in the name of survival. You forgot because they laughed at your ideas, rolled their eyes at your ambition, called you unrealistic when all you really were was untamed. They told you to calm down, to settle down, to sit down, and you listened. You silenced your own roar to make others comfortable. You dimmed your brilliance so you wouldn't blind the ones afraid of light. And in doing so, you betrayed the very reason you were born. You were always meant for more. But meant for more is not a guarantee. It's an invitation. One that arrives without fanfare and demands an RSVP signed in sacrifice, effort, and decision. Greatness isn't fate. It's a decision. And most people never make it. Why? Because more costs. It costs comfort, costs old beliefs. It costs approval from people you've outgrown. It costs the version of you that feels safe but small. And that price scares people more than failure ever could. So they stay in almost confident, almost ready, almost alive. But you don't want almost anymore. You're tired of half-lived dreams and fully felt regrets. You're tired of watching others rise while you shrink, not because you're incapable, but because you haven't chosen, truly chosen, to step into the storm and own what's already inside you. Because here's the truth. The life you crave? It's not waiting for permission. It's waiting for commitment. Success doesn't knock on your door. You have to chase it down, breathless, bleeding, unrelenting, until it becomes your reflection. That person you dream of being? They're not out there. They're in the mirror, quietly asking, "Are you finally ready to stop surviving and start becoming?" Because you don't need more time. You don't need more information. You don't need another podcast, another book, another YouTube video to finally feel ready. You need to decide, to draw the line, to say no more with such finality that the universe itself rearranges to match your new standard. No more shrinking to fit into rooms that can't hold your vision. No more settling for scraps when you were made to build feasts. No more tolerating relationships, routines, and realities that drain the fire out of your chest. Every next level of your life is locked behind a decision to leave the old version of you behind. And you won't need a map. You are the map. You just have to move. Will it be hard? Of course. But hard isn't the enemy. It's the evidence you're growing. Will you be scared? Yes. But fear doesn't mean stop. It means stretch. And when the voices show up, the ones that say, "Who do you think you are?" answer them boldly. I am the one who finally said yes. Yes to risking being seen. Yes to losing people who were only attached to your limitation. Yes to waking up early, staying up late, sacrificing ease for impact, and refusing to die with your magic still locked inside your bones. You're not here by accident. This moment, this sentence, is not random. You're reading these words because a part of you already knows. There's more. And it's yours. But only if you rise. No one's coming to hand you your crown. You have to forge it in fire. You don't get to live a legendary life with a lukewarm commitment. You don't get to hold power with hesitant hands. You don't get to walk through doors you're too afraid to knock on. But when you choose it, truly choose it, everything changes. When you start showing up like someone who deserves more starts to show up for you. Not because the world finally noticed you, but because you finally noticed yourself. Because you stopped begging for validation and started writing your own permission slip. Because you stopped asking, what if it doesn't work? And started asking, what if it does? This is not the end of the letter. This is the beginning of your revolution. Right here. Right now. No applause. No guarantees. Just you, your breath, and the knowing that it's time. Time to say yes. Time to burn the old stories. Time to wake up, rise up, and live like you've already won, because you were never meant to live half alive. This isn't a motivational quote. This isn't a fairy tale. This is your turning point, and you get to decide what happens next. A 5-second message. Are you in debt? Want to know how to always have money? After watching this video, click the first link below, in the description or the pinned comment. Discover the Live Always with Money method. Find out the 10 steps that are changing lives. Link in the description and pinned comment. And for you, the one who knows you were born to be a millionaire, to be rich, I invite you to discover how to get rich through the power of thought. Access the method in the description. Golden Mindset, 30 Steps to Wealth Through the Power of the Mind.